Hi, welcome to Beyond Authentic, the magical meandering podcast. Should be the other way around, but we're going to roll with it. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Neil.
And we are definitely bringing you the chaos this podcast. So as you will know, if you've been following us for over a year now, we've been doing this.
Yeah,
if you've been following us for that amount of time, this is probably one of the most chaotic, witchy podcasts you're ever going to find. And today it is, what would you say, 50% more chaotic than normal?
Yeah, definitely.
Something like that.
Yeah, because I think everyone's kind of getting used to the idea of one chaos magician and these wacky ideas. So I think we can level up now. See if you can deal with two chaos magicians with wacky ideas.
Two chaos magicians, yeah. So right then, without further ado, Neil's introduced it so well. We are going to bring in our guest. We've got a guest, not quite in the studio. We're not quite up to that standard yet, but please welcome our lovely Lorna. Yay! We have to do our own applause on this channel because we're poor. Anyway, hi Lorna. Hi. I feel completely overwhelmed now. I feel like I should be casting sigils or something. I don't know. Hi, good evening. Welcome, Lorna. How are you doing? And
good.
Who are you?
I don't know. What a question to ask.
I mean, basically,
we asked the deep-seated questions here. You realise that?
Too early, man.
The deep philosophical questions.
No, I mean, I class Lisa as my older sister, and I class Lorna.
Watch it. I'm not that old. I'm getting the Botox sorted, so.
No, but I class Lisa as my older sister, and Lorna is definitely my younger sister. You know, she's my best friend, and I thought it would be interesting getting her on the podcast because she's a fellow magic practitioner, and she's come from.
You do realise that makes you the middle child, the awkward middle child.
Yeah,
yeah,
got middle child issues.
Right. It's about
but yeah, she's kind of come from an interesting place where she started out quite strict with kind of her views on magic, and then as she progressed down the line, it became looser. And I thought it'd be an interesting person to bring in, and also just kind of her knowledge and experience with a variety of different practices is fascinating as well. So that's Lorna.
Thank you, Neil. That was a very nice introduction.
So how did we meet, Lorna?
In a library.
I know.
Sorry,
yeah.
In a what?
In a library. I found him creeping around the books, right? Just, in the dusty aisles. There he was. But anyway, it was his bag. I just saw this guy creeping around some books, and he had this bag, and I was like, it had it had a triquetra on, it had some sigils on. Did it have a pentacle on? I know you still have that bag, or it's a child.
It just had loads of different symbols on it, and you kind of come up to it and, oh, that's. I think somebody else came up to him and went, oh, is that or whatever? And you come up and went, oh no, actually it's this, and da 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 da. And then we kind of went outside because we were both smokers at the time, and we got chatting, and then it evolved from there. You should support your local libraries, basically. Because you don't know who you're going to meet in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe you should also celebrate your uniqueness by displaying sigils and charms and everything else. Don't be afraid to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. But you also have a bit of a background with Lisa, oddly.
Yeah, no, I heard about this. So, for those watching and those listening, I don't even know how this is possible, but I apparently more years ago than I'm even alive now, I used to run a shop, which I did. Well, I didn't run a shop, but I used to work in a shop in Leeds, and Lorna used to come in quite often.
I did. I came in every week from being. Do you want me to say how long ago it was? I'm totally fine.
You can do. Yeah, you can do. Go on then.
So it's actually nearly 20 years ago. I'm going to be real. It's nearly 20 years ago. I
don't even know how that's possible. I was a fetus 20 years ago. So, that's...
Running the shop when you were 5.
I was. You see, back then it was our times. Our times. You had to work
hard
when
labor,
you were young to pay bills. I know, right?
So, we went to first trip to Leeds when I was allowed out, and being a mini goth at the time, the Corn Exchange was the place to be. There was just this mass gathering outside, and I was too cool to hang out outside on the steps. I was too uncool. That's the wrong. Not cool enough.
Too cool.
Right? No, not cool enough. So you went inside, and there's some shops, and there was this my first little haven just tucked away, and and that's where I started exploring my path as it led on to be. Some great advice given from that shop, I've got to say.
Must have been on a good day then. Because we sold Silver Ravenwolf books, so I'm telling you, not all of the advice was good. Yes, what I'm saying. God. But anyway, so you say about your path. So what did you start off as, and where's your path headed then? So because obviously it's 13, 14. Silver Ravenwolf is probably the sort of things that you were looking at, whether you were looking at and going, or whether you were looking at and going, wow, this is amazing, because that's the age group that she was aimed at. And again, no slagging them off, because a lot of people that have been in the craft now for 20, 30 years came in via Silver Ravenwolf and that. So what was your path? So
I suppose that since it started, my path has been very, very tied up in my state of mind and my sort of place in life. And at that point, I was a very outcast, sort of quite lonely person, teenager, young person. So I spent a lot of time walking, and I lived in a really very beautiful, very full of nature little town, and I spent a lot of time on the moors where there was lots of stone circles and by the river and stuff. So I was taking in all this nature and just being like, there's something alive here, and it's stunning, and I actually feel at peace here. So going and finding out about this, for want of a better word at the time, religion. I know I wouldn't use that word anymore, but that's sort of how I viewed it then. Based around nature, I was like, this is unreal. This is perfect. So I would start off like very traditional, pagan, I would call it. That's what I classed it as. That's what I thought it was. It wasn't Wiccan, because there was a lot of things about the Wiccan that I didn't really subscribe to, even at that point. I can actually show you the very first book that I bought that I actually still have, and I still treasure it, because to be honest, it has a lot of good memories, but I don't use it. Can anyone guess what it might be?
Okay, I was thinking it would have been either a Scott Cunningham or a Big Blue, Buckland's Big Blue.
No, this was the book that I picked, and it was, even now I can look at it and be like, not bad. Had some quite nice ideas in it. And even though it was written by a Wiccan high priestess, as she describes herself, she was pretty open to, discussing a much more general way of practicing. And that really, that set me off, really. And I was hooked. I had the bug,
So you say that you weren't actually, you weren't a pagan. You didn't identify as a pagan. As a Wiccan then.
No.
So sort of what was your sort of main interest at the time then? You say it was like a lot more pagan and earth magic. But is that sort of heathenry? Did it go down any of those routes?
No, it was very, the Wheel of the Year was just my heart and soul. I just couldn't wait, and just following the seasons, just absolutely in love with just watching nature change, and the energy and the spirit that was driving that. And that's just where I was at. And I was fascinated with the ideas that were creeping in about increasing the power within yourself. I didn't get that. I didn't really understand that, but I was starting to like devise little rituals of my own, you know, just for I don't know, more friends at school. I don't know, whatever. I definitely did a love spell for a boyfriend. Definitely at one point. Oh yeah. It didn't work. It didn't work. Just in case you wondered. So yeah, it was looking back at at my beginnings. I actually was like, that is actually a nice place to start. It was an unlabeled, just sort of magic-y little wee one.
About that time, certainly when I was in the shop, it was just starting to. It was kind of like the new wave of post Gardnerianism, where it was up until that point, it was things like the Witch's Bible by the Farrers, Buckland's Big Blue, and they were just starting to get like we'd had Cunningham like and all of his and the Silver Ravenwolf books, but you were just starting to get some of the authors bringing in alternative views and different views and stuff that was expanding beyond sort of this Wicca thing is very safe. And it was a really interesting time because obviously you'd had all the satanic panic thing the sort of decades before, LaVey and the whole, you know, Satanism thing that had all kind of exploded and then sort of fallen back in on itself, so to speak. So it was just at this weird time where the publishers were taking risks on books that 5-10 years ago wouldn't have sold and they wouldn't have been published because it was all of that. Oh no, because of the satanic panic, we've got to say there's no devil, there's none of this, there's none of that, there's nothing evil, there's nothing dark. We're all light and fluffy and fluffy and light and fluffy and fluffy. And it was all of that. So you were coming into it. In fact, both of you were coming into it just at that time where publishers were taking those risks again on what I would consider to be more legitimate magic, a more liminal magic, where it's looking at the light and the dark. And then obviously where we are now with the internet, it's completely different. But it was that burgeoning time. So where would you say you are now on your journey?
So now I'm at this, I think of my magic now as a house, and in its foundation there's chaos. That's what I like to think of it. Because of my life, my sort of Monday life, but also my magic life, I cannot bear any sort of boundaries or limitations or dogma. It makes me feel ill. So I have to have chaos sort of leaking through everything I do. I have to have freedom and to put my heart into everything I do and to change it and to, you know, not control it, but just to be free. I have to be free with what I do. So
did you how did you get from kind of just paganism and all the different diversions that you took to get to chaos?
It's, I suppose I've learned by mistakes, by hard times. I've got here by I suppose unfortunate circumstances, by hard lessons, bouncing off the bottom of life more than once to reach, you know, because that's the one thing that will peel away any sort of fakery that you're trying to upkeep, because when you're lying on the bottom of everything that you've ever felt, you can't keep up any sort of, well, for me, I couldn't keep up any sort of dogma, because I'm like, I can't feel like this anymore. I have to find my way. I have to find my own way. Yeah. So yes, as you know, it's harsh lessons for me that's got me here and through the very interesting road I took in those 20 years. How is what?
Yeah, because when I first met you, you kind of still had some quite set ideas about things, and I remember kind of us texting quite a bit, and you saying like, "Well, what about this? Is it all right if I did this? And what about the repercussions of this? And I'd be like, no, it's fine. No, it's all right. And then I remember us kind of having this conversation over a cup of tea by the sea or something, and me trying to explain what chaos magic is to you, and you weren't really that familiar with it. And I think that's kind of, I hope that I've kind of helped loosen you up from kind of these kind of set ideas that you've had over the years. How did you kind of get into those set ideas?
I joined a coven when I was coming to the shop when I was well, let's say 13. That's when I was 13, and then my personal life was my home life wasn't good. So at 18, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to leave, and I'd made friends with some people that practice. They had a hearty practice, and they had a very certain way of going about things. They'd had their own challenges, and they had a chip on their shoulder. But I was looking for a tribe, place to belong. I didn't want to do it on my own. I wasn't ready to do it on my own. So I fell in with this particular this small coven, and they had a very, very certain way of going about things. The conditioning was on a very vulnerable young mind who wasn't in a good place. That conditioning was very it was brutal, to be honest, and how fearful of general life it made me. I didn't have any friends or any experiences outside of their idea of the craft of witchcraft. And the thing is, a lot of the stuff that they taught wasn't particularly incorrect, but it was their way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I became very frightened of anything that wasn't that, because I wasn't ready. I was too vulnerable. I was too I suppose damaged at that point to really strike out on my own. And I did quite well along that particular path. I explored I suppose what you would call sort of higher magic, quite ceremonial high magic, involving some quite high goddesses and deities who I formed bonds with. And I did some things that even now I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool, But unfortunately, it wasn't authentic me. It wasn't authentic Lorna, because it was someone else's idea of magic and witchcraft. And obviously, if I deviated from that, the repercussions were, sort of outcast. The whole way that the coven was quite cult-like. There was, if you didn't adhere, there was stonewalling. You were ignored. And for someone who had really not got anything else at that time, that was terrifying, to the thought of losing everything. I mean, I got that was it. Everyone had been pushed away, and I was reliant on these people as my only friends, family, and I thought I couldn't really practice magic without them at that point. So even though it was high magic that was effective, it was in a very controlled environment.
So how did you, after that experience, how did your craft change? Did you kind of take the elements that you'd learned, or did you think, I don't want any kind of links to that I went through with the magic that I do now? How did that affect things?
Yeah, because when I left that situation, I couldn't practice magic for many years. I felt like I'd failed, because that that world had been shattered, and I was like, well, what is magic? Who am I? What do I do? So moving on from that was extremely difficult, and I didn't until I met you, until I met Neil. I was, I think you play it down, the effect that you had on my my well-being and also my magical freedom. And it did start. It started with a dress. I remember.
Oh yeah, the dress.
Yes. I bought a Killstar dress and it had a upside down pentacle on it, and I was like, oh my god, I really like this dress. Can I wear this dress? Because upside down pentacle, I'd been taught, was no, you can't wear that. Oh, that's bad. You're marking yourself as bad. It's silly. It's, you're calling things, you're opening doorways to things you don't understand. I was like, Neil, I really like this dress. Yeah, I think the way you described it was like, well, what is dark? What is light? What is good? What is bad? I've still favorited all the messages that you sent. I wouldn't admit this to you if we weren't on a podcast. And on a little WhatsApp, so if you go on favorited messages, and they're all still there, and I can just, if I need to, remind myself of, if I'm shaking about and be like, okay, I'll just go and read those again and just remember what on earth I'm doing. So that very rigid way of thinking, which was very toxic and very wrong, wasn't it? That started to break and started to shatter. I suppose because I said at the beginning, like, my craft very much is very tied to my life circumstances. So at that point, I was in not a good personal situation, and I kept pulling the Eight of Swords every day. Okay. I'm gonna have to do something here, aren't I? So I remember I went down to the beach of where I lived, and I said, okay, I'm listening. If there's anyone out there, if any of this is real, I want out. Help me get out of here. And 2 days later, after many years of being in not a good place and not a good situation, I was gone. Circumstances, just something got the ball going, and yeah, I was out. And then every single night, I kept hearing this name in my head, and it was Belial. And I was like, what is that? Who is that? And it was so loud. I'd never heard that name in my life. In passing, I remember I Googled it, and it was just, I think in Hebrew, his name means Lord of Lies. And I was like, that's so good. What is that? So there was one particular night I'd been ignoring it for a while, and I shut my eyes, and I saw this golden sigil in my head. And I was like, what is that? I mean, this was like an intense experience that was happening all the time, and I was like, this is something I have to. Who is this? So I went to Reddit. Reddit. Okay. And I typed in, who is Belial? And this subreddit came up called, help me out, demonolatry. Demonolatry. I can't even say it because I don't say it out loud. I just say it in my head. So this subreddit popped up, and I went on and I just typed. I was like, I'm seeing this symbol. I am hearing this name. Who is this and what is this? And I got a few replies basically saying this is a goetic demon or spirit, and he wants your attention. So maybe you should do something about that. I'm like, what do I do? What do you mean? I'm terrified because I'm reading all this stuff about him, and he's like, gets on and he does stuff. And I'm like, I am really scared. And then I was like, did he get me out? Why? And so the more I looked into it, you know, people were calling him like the original anarchist. He was like one nickname that I kept getting when I thought of him was the chain breaker. And I was like, okay, this guy sounds cool. I was like, I'm not cool enough. What do I do? So I stayed on the subreddit and I kept being like, okay, I really want to reach out. What do you guys do to reach out to a goetic demon?
For people that are listening that are maybe quite new, what would you describe the Goetia or the goetic side of things as? Because it is a construct that comes directly from higher magic, isn't it, and ceremonial magic.
So a goetic spirit, or as referred in this book, a divine intelligence, they are some people see them as a hierarchy, like a hierarchical group of 72 spirits. I don't know an awful lot of the history behind why these 72 spirits are grouped in this way as part of the Goetia. Why they are a system, whether it's been a choice or whether it's been like a man-made group, but most of them are an archetype of already quite well-known goddesses, deities, spirits, however you want to say it. But it is the form that they are choosing to present, because they can be called upon in this particular way that is very, very it's quite intense, and it's sort of like a very direct line of communication and working with them, and it has very particular results that are almost all focused around magical self improvement and sort of giving ownership back to yourself. And it tends to be a very intense and a very quick process. You approach the demon spirit directly as yourself and ask for their presence in your life. So it is a much more respectful way, because you're not forcing a literal goddess or deity to your will, because why would you do that? Because I wouldn't want to be you when you pass over if you've done that. But hey, you know. Yes. Anyway, so that's the general gist. Okay, so immediately I can think of a question that somebody at home might be wanting to ask. So when you're talking about demons, and you're literally using the same, or you're using the word demon, but as you said, it can also relate to higher spirits, deities. Is that just a different choice of words, or what do you mean by demon? Because obviously for the majority of people that maybe have never been involved in demonolatry, obviously the word demon is like, ah! And we've all seen, you know, come Halloween time, there's plenty of little demons running around. Arguably, any time that the school holidays are on, there's plenty of demons running around as well. But so what is the connotation, like what does that word mean for you? So I suppose because demonolatry it's a very free way of practicing, you would get probably a different answer from depending who you asked. So for me, I don't really, apart from in this conversation, particularly use the word demon, but it is interchangeable with spirit in this particular magical path. But it's reclaiming a word that has been demonized. It's just, in this instance, it's all about turning things on its head.
Are you a fan of 80s horror but want something different? Do you like modern horror but the regular magazines leave you a bit cold? Are you a fan of that schlocky horror that no one else seems to talk about? Check out Necronomicon, the UK horror zine from Etsy.com. Just search for Necroneil. Blue Chalice is a small business making crafty creations for the witchy community, from jewellery to wall hangings, witch bells to altar tiles. Why not have a look at bluechalice.etsy.com.
Demonolatry is, there's a lot of rejection of rigid structures of being. I meet a lot of people online that are in the Bible Belt in America, and they are rejecting the religion that has been forced upon them, and so they come to demonolatry because it's a very free way of being, and it's also turned everything they've been taught through fear on its head. So, Lucifer is a really popular and well thought of spirit in demonolatry because he is associated as a light bringer, a bringer of knowledge and of truth. Yes.
So, I mean, that's mainly your practice.
I would say it is an enormous part of it because of the life that I'd had, I suppose, up until Belial flourished himself into my life. My life was extremely controlled by outside influences. I was very conditioned, and I was had been trapped in my own head by other people, and in a different way to people that had obviously come from Christianity, but it was very much the same need for liberation nonetheless that demonolatry offered.
So how does chaos magic come into all of this then? Because obviously in the introduction, Neil was quite distinct and introduced you as a chaos magician. So how does that dovetail with the demonolatry and sort of your experiences?
So chaos magic is in everything. It's everywhere. It's like fairy dust.
And I'm getting the craft, the original. Manao is in me. He's in everyone. That's instantly what I'm getting. But yeah, go on.
So because my form of demonolatry is was focused very much on regaining my personal power. My personal power was then fueled by or given life, let's say, of chaos magic. Because chaos magic, it's just the air, isn't it? It's just it gets in everywhere, and you can't stop it because it can just go through the wall. It's great. So I think of it like this: if I'm going to have my elements on my magic tree, chaos would be air because it's everywhere, and you breathe it, and you can I don't know, freeze it. You can probably freeze it. It's all good. So, and then demonolatry would be the fire. It's the fuel. It's the fury. It's the melting, the reforging. So chaos is just everywhere. It's in everything.
In chaos magic, we tend to have a few little things that we go to rather than just a set path. So what other branches have you got going off of demonolatry?
So I still have my absolute deep, faithful love for nature. So I still absolutely adore a very nature-based practice, which I would say is more of my day-to-day goings on. Like it was, the solstice was quite recent, and I was excited about it. I'm always excited. I'm like, it's the solstice, it's coming, I have to bake a cake, because essentially, even though I'm freeing myself, I'm still, I'm still always listening and quite excited for any connection with a goddess, with a deity, with sort of for me, the spirit which exists in all natural things, which is where sort of it's got animism, which is a general sort of multi-belief set of just believing that there is spirit and there is life in every natural thing. There is energy, and you can learn something from everything natural. That has grown really since I had this sort of big breakthrough, this big bit of fire. That sort of gentler side has grown really nicely alongside as I've just, I suppose, matured from that time. So lots of, I suppose, like plant magic. I've got really healthy interest in sort of herbs, their properties, and I'm sure Leisha will be very excited to know that the Fae are in my garden. And
you're welcome to them. I hope they're very happy in your garden. That way they don't come into mine.
As long as they stay out of Lisa's garden.
It's fine.
I sort of wait for synchronicities to show me where I need to go. Generally, I don't look at something like that. I am going to go and work with this goddess because I want to. I wait for signs, and it's so exciting when you get them, you know. There's a goddess called Goddess Nematona who has gently made herself known to me over the past few years, and she's, you know, I think she's always been there, my sort of gentle love of nature, that sort of sacred space. She's a goddess of sanctuary, and you know, I love having a chance to go to the woods and just, she's, you know, she's a goddess of like the liminal, the tween, as I like to call it, the in between, but she didn't make herself known until the correct moment for me. So, and it's so exciting, and it's really emotional as well when you realize someone's just been there all along waiting for that right time for you.
I think that's the best way. I mean, I know that there are some spirits, gods, entities, etc., however you want to define them. I know that you do have a group that you've kind of
have a gang
amassed. Well, you know what I mean, like it, but they each have come to you at different times. It hasn't been like, I think it hasn't been something that's you've gone like, oh, I fancy working with them, oh, I need them for this. And like, to you, it's all about, you've always kept open to whatever needs to, you know, come for you, wants to work with you, rather than you seeking them out. And I find that really interesting. It's very intuitive, and basically.
It's, I mean, that's really interesting, because I don't know whether, like, what your opinions are on modern witchcraft. Maybe we'll get into that in a bit, with the internet like changing everything. But one of the latest trends that I've seen, certainly on things like Witch Talk and on Facebook and even on Instagram, not that I spend a lot of time on social media, which I don't, to be honest. YouTube I spend a lot of time on. Is that social media? Anyway, but Hecate has been, all of a sudden, it's like this generation have just discovered her, and there's like, I was about to say 1,000 books, but there's not. But there's like a raft of books coming out, how to work with her. All of a sudden, everything's got keys everywhere. Even in the Witch Casket box recently, there were 2 different things with keys on. They didn't mention Hecate by name, but it's very much like, oh, keys are the big in thing at the moment. And it feels like there's going to be a whole mass of people going, hi, Hecate, can I work with you, please? You're going to work with me now? And it's like, I don't think there's quite that understanding of some of these entities. You don't want to fuck around and find out. You know what I mean? So have you seen that with things in demonolatry? Have you seen people going, no, actually, you must work with me because I said so? And it's like, who the fuck are you? You're just a little pissy human. Like, piss off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, my goodness, the stories. So after I got all this information off the sub, I joined their Discord, and the person who ran the Discord, Sage, I will say his name because he's a really amazing person. And he ran this Discord. I honestly thought he was like this wise old like elder, like, in his 70s, like spewing all these wisdoms out to the young folk. And anyway, so the sub was full of all these different kind of theistics. You had your straight core demonolatresses, and it was interesting. Anyway, so there's always politics, isn't it? The politics got in the way. Discord got nuked, and I was like, so I've lost this connection with this person called Sage, and what am I going to do? Because this person, a little, sort of like a shade of what Neil had done in the past, was sort of just gently nudging and helping me through sort of some sort of magical breakthroughs. So anyway, I was just on Instagram because I started a bit of a blog, just of my journey, just sharing my thoughts. I like taking pictures. And this person, I'd done one about Belial, and this person just liked it, called Sage, and I was like, Sage, is it you? And I messaged him, and he's like, yeah, but all these people ran off, and I've got no one to mod the sub. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll help you mod the sub. So that was that. So I started modding this sub, and I never realized how many posts got deleted because my goodness. So I'm going to tell you this story. It's not PG. It's probably 18 plus. So anyways.
Okay. The whole podcast is 18 plus. I mean, I've already sworn more than you hear in most podcasts, so it's fine.
So there was this young lady had made a post. And so I read the post. I was like, okay, I will decide whether to approve this. And she said, Orobas is my guy. I
know the story.
He wears me like like the prow of a ship on his erect penis as he marches into battle. And I was like, I don't think he does he? This was one of many posts of a very sexual nature. There was posts being like, will so-and-so my next door neighbor because they won't let me sleep. So there was a very strange sort of way of looking. Maybe it's because of how intense the results can be from demonolatry. This like, I'm going to call on them to do this job. There was a certain maybe age group or way of thinking of these immensely powerful spirits needing that need respect to be approached, and they are saying some crazy stuff. I mean, and whether there is a certain, the more we talk about witchcraft to like a really very wide audience, the more it's sort of mainstreamed, the more the sort of the curtains are lifted, the more people maybe forget that that healthy, immense dose of respect that has to go with everything you do. Yeah, I think you said it right. It's just fuck around and find out. Like, the amount of times I've sat there being like, oh, I don't want to be you. Like,
no.
Where is your daily practice now then, Lorna? So what, on an average day, all right, not a summer solstice or something like that, where it's still got that almost traditional folk element to it. What would you do on a daily basis if you're just like, I'm wanting to do something witchy, but maybe not a full-on big thing? What's your daily sort of, or weekly or monthly practice sort of look like?
So yeah, daily practice it's pretty minimal at the minute. Just as an aside, I've got a little boy, so I think when you've got something so time consuming. You've just got to prioritize your time, and most importantly your energy. You know, there've been many times I've tried to sit down and do something big, as I like to think of it now, and I'm like, my eyes are just, you know, I'm like, oh, this is not respectful. I'm sorry. I yawn like 4 times. Like, what did I do the other day? I think I called somebody because I really wanted to talk to them, and I yawned. Like, I try not to do anything like that when I'm in the presence of, you know, like a literal deity, God, however you want to put it. And they're like, oh God, I'm so sorry. Oh no. So
but they understand. It's like when you have an accident and you accidentally set your sleeve on fire. It's like accidents happen, or you know, you've cast your circle and you've left your salt outside. It's like, oh well, we'll just run with it. You know,
yeah.
the entities, the deities, the universe, it understands.
Oh, they're so used to me as well, because I'm just a complete pillock sometimes. You know, the stuff I've messed up is, oh, that would be a great thing. Just all the stuff I've messed up magically. Anyway,
Or the magical bloopers.
Magical bloopers, yes. Some crackers. But yeah, daily practice. Just lighting some candles. Just a little moment of recognition, I think, it goes a long way. Just a bit of a chat, you know, like I've got, like, I think you can see above my head, I have all these little box shrines as they go along, you know. Oh, there we go. So 1, 2, 3, and then there's more above. There's one, oh, wrong way. There's one here. You know, I just light a little candle on all of them. I'm just like, I'm just really glad you're here. I'm really glad you're in my life. I'm doing the best I can right now. I feel guilty a lot. I'm there like, I'm sorry, I'm not absolutely bossing it, but you know, I'm tired. So yeah, that's pretty much the extent at the moment. Moving. Yeah.
At the very least, that's what you do. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
The Fae obviously have moved into the garden, so I've been planting them some flowers. I've got them some foxglove and things that they like. So, and I'm just like, I don't know why you're here, but that's fine. It's nice that you are. That's the general vibe I go with at the minute. Like, I don't understand because I don't have time to understand, but it's all fine, right? Lots of things to do with plants, and just I love making up some like herbal blends, burning them on some charcoal. And I just suppose I just see what synchronicities come my way. They always make me really happy, and I'm just sort of like, oh, guess what happened today? You know, I saw. Oh, I can't even think. But you know, synchronicities, they're my happy place at the minute. So yeah, very, very minimal. A lot of intention in little daily things.
Cool. So you did mention a bit earlier that you used to, before you did the subreddit, you used to have a blog. Now, as someone who attempted blogging, which lasted about the same length of time as my attempt at publishing zines, for you doing a blog, like, are you still blogging? Was it on like what format? What was it on? Can we still find it? Is it on oh God, Blogspot was the one I used to. Oh Jesus,
showing your age.
That is showing my age. I know, right? On AOL, dial-up, and all that shit. But so yeah. So what was the blog about? Was that magic related as well?
Yes. So it was on Instagram, because I used to take pictures, but then I'd write, I guess, a blog post with the particular photo I'd taken that day, and it was just, I suppose, it was my journey from leaving the constricted place I was and the journey to where I am now. And people got along on the journey, and we're just sort of dipping in and sort of, yeah, some, you know, I met some people, some people on similar paths, and it was nice. It was sort of sweet. But you know, obviously, as with social media, you do fall into a trap of, oh, no one really read that post. You know, maybe I should delete it. You know, so for me, that's when it had to end, and I don't post anymore, but it is still up. So, but the
so if people wanted to find it, what would that be on Instagram?
So it's Blackthorn Elder, so just the 2 trees, you know, but also a play on of being like an elder, which I do not claim to be, but you know, one day, you know, I'm just throwing out some future prospects for myself. So yes, but because it got a little popular at one point, and because of the surge in mainstream media, witchcraft, magic, I used to get some, well, I guess people messaging me being like, do you want some spell work? I'll pay you to do this spell.
Okay.
And you know, I never took them up, because I'm like, I'm not here for that really. But you know, this is what you could do yourself. You know, I try and be like, try this yourself. And my personal favorite was can you curse me? And I was just like, why? What? No. And it came across a little bit like, curse me, mommy, curse me. I've been a bad boy.
Yeah.
And I declined. But I actually thought, you know what? And he didn't stop. He was like, but please curse me with laughter. Curse me. You know, I was just like, okay, done. And I hadn't. Just to be clear, I hadn't. But you know what? If he thinks that, who knows what will happen? You know, the mind's a powerful thing. So, yeah, that's my personal favorite. I like telling that one.
Okay, Lorna, so if somebody has watched or listened to this, first of all, give it a thumbs up and a like and all of that stuff if you have done, a follow, all of the things on all the socials. But if somebody has listened to this or watched this and they're thinking, oh, this demonolatry thing, this sounds really interesting. How do I get involved? Like, how do I summon my first demon? What would you suggest that they do?
So there is a book that most people would recommend.
Okay.
It's pretty standard, but obviously it is presenting demonolatry as a fixed path, you know, which I don't subscribe to. But the methods in there are very useful. It's just called The Complete Book of Demonolatry by S. Connolly. Pick it up on Amazon. Hilariously, I don't own it.
Okay.
But that is, if you wanted to approach it, or you're just interested, that is if the methods are there, and the ethos is in there, which is, I think, the most important part of it. A book I really, really highly recommend is this one.
Okay, 6 Ways.
So this is, so he described it himself as a mixture of folk, chaos, and animist spirit work. It's an approach to witchcraft that is very free, it is very open, and just very respectful of the energies that are just present around you. He refers to sort of the spiritual plane as the field, which I really love. And he has a chapter in here that discusses his, you know, it's called dirt sorcery. And if someone asks me, what would you label yourself as? It's like, I'm a dirt sorcerer. That's what I tell people, because I pick up sticks and rocks, I bring them home, and I have images of myself with my hands in the dirt, scrabbling around, and really happy about it. So
who's that book by?
So this is by, I'm not very good at pronunciations. That's what I say. I'm probably wrong, but my pronunciations are not my strong point. But yeah, and it just gives you methods of strengthening your your practice, meditation techniques, and just like little tiny chapters that then I have to go away and think about for days just to let it all nicely digest. So yes, that would be, if you wanted to kind of be a, if you like the sound of what I do and how I think, that is the book I would recommend.
Okay, fantastic.
The only other ones I have are, if you were interested in sort of plant magic, this one is very good.
Okay. Entering Hecate's Garden.
Really nice sort of introduction to sort of plant spirit magic, discussing a few of the major plants from sort of a perspective of goddess Hecate. The author has written quite a few. She's obviously someone who works with Hecate really closely, but a really, really solid book for plant spirit magic.
Thank you. So I guess I've got to just say then, thanks ever so much for coming on. If you ever want to come on again, you're more than welcome. I think we've probably barely touched the surface on this. It's opened up a whole new range of subjects that we definitely haven't covered on the podcast before. So yeah, maybe we'll have to get you back very soon so we can start digging below the surface in the dirt, like dirt sorceresses. If you've been watching this and you're wondering where our new segments are for our season 2 of the podcast, where we're talking about the magic that we've been up to in the last month, and also the questions, queries, and quandaries section where you can ask us, we're not doing that on this special. So this is a special edition where we are welcoming Lorna, but that will be back on our next scheduled podcast, available wherever you've got this one from. As always, we've probably been filming for nearly 2 hours, and this will be cut way down to about an hour's long podcast. So yeah, thanks ever so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to plug? I know we've got your Instagram where you can still go and find the blog if you want to, at Blackthorn Elder on Instagram. I didn't remember it. I did have to write it down. And of course, if you like the 80s, 70s, 90s schlock horror, you can go across to Etsy, where you can get yourself a copy of the Necronomicon, which is Neil's baby. In fact, I don't think we can call it a baby anymore. This is your golden anniversary, isn't it, this year? Or this issue is your golden year.
Issue 50. It's nearly
Golden
done
issue.
at last. Are
you actually doing it now?
Yeah, I've just got the cover to do. That's it.
Oh wow!
Done.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
So in the next, within the next month, it'll be out. So,
wow!
Issue
so
50.
yeah, if you want to support small guerrilla publishing, then do go across to Etsy, look for Necro Neil, and get yourself a Necronomicon. I absolutely love it, and you'll probably be able to find some back issues that talk about the other Belial that we mentioned earlier. But anyway, that is going to be it from us today, and all that's left, I guess, is to say stay you, stay true, stay authentic, keep practicing,
keep experimenting.
Do you want to say a keep something?
It's too much pressure.
Fair enough. Well, that's the best point to end. So we'll see you next time, and yeah, see you on the next one. Bye-bye.